Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, Shazam! Fury of the Gods I thought was a pretty decent film. You can check out my review on the website. I believe I gave it a 7.3 out of 10, and that's just literally 1 point below the previous film. I do not think director David F. Sandberg quite recaptured the magic in a bottle that he did with that first film, but all of the heart is still there. It's still a very enjoyable movie. This film financially is a disaster. It tanked. It didn't even make back its initial budget, at least as of yet. It probably won't. And there's a lot of blame going around. Zachary Levi is doing his best to kind of promote the film online to get more people to go see it. But yeah, they're blaming The Rock for vetoing any characters from Black Adam from being in this film. James Gunn, of course, he announced that the new DCU is coming, and a lot of people, pretty much 99% of the people from the old DCEU, are not going to transfer over to this new set of films he's making. So they're like, what's the point of even going to see this if it leads nowhere? So like I said, a lot of blame going around, and it's all fair. It is all fair because The Rock, I love The Rock. I enjoyed Black Adam for what it was. It's not the greatest movie, but I had a good time. But him not wanting to appear as a Shazam villain when Black Adam is a Shazam villain, that's the only reason he's there, and only wanting him to fight Superman, that's a dick move. Him not allowing any of the Justice Society to appear in Shazam is another dick move. And I get The Rock was swinging big for the fence. He wanted to be Black Adam and Superman. He wanted to bring back Henry Cavill. But come on, man. You got to humble yourself a little bit. Eat some humble pie and be like, I want Superman in my movie if I'm going to make this cameo. Make those kind of pivots, And James Gunn, as much as everybody did want to know what the new plan for the DCU was moving forward, he probably should have waited and announced that this Christmas as a Christmas present, everybody, after Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Because saying that I'm going to cast a new Superman, I'm going to cast a new all these other people, and Shazam's just kind of doing its own thing, is the first Shazam was already a smaller movie to begin with, and people saw it, A, because it was good, and David F. Sandberg did a great job, B, because they're this is still set in whatever they changed Zack Snyder's DCEU into. It was still kind of set in that universe, so there's the potential to see other characters, so I think that boosted it up a little bit as well. But now that it's not a part of anything, yeah, I get people saying, why should we go see it? But it was good. I have my issues with it, and let's just get all into that right now. So the story is basically the daughters of Atlas, played by Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Zegler. And they're these Greek gods who had their powers taken away by the wizard, which is a little iffy, but they come to Earth to retrieve the wizard's staff, and they want to bring back the realm of the gods. So they're stealing the powers from the Shazam family, and that's the basic premise of the movie. You have to stop these three gods from, destroying the world. All the gods are supposed to be dead as far as we know. All the Greek gods are supposed to be dead as far as we know. And the person who killed them, as it was stated in Wonder Woman, the first one, Ares killed them. So how did they survive Ares' wrath? It is not even mentioned. There's no connection to the first Wonder Woman movie or the Greek gods that were presented in that, or that battle against the new gods and Darkseid when they came down. That's one strike against it. Second strike against it, Wonder Woman. Spoiler alert, they put it in the trailers at the very end to try and get people to go see this movie. She appears at the very end just to kind of as a deus ex machina to restore the staff's energy. This movie should have had her as a central figure throughout the entire plot. She should have been helping the Shazam family, try and reason with these gods, saying, I'm Zeus's daughter. There should have been a lot more connections to her film series present throughout this. Asher Angel is 21 years old. He no longer looks like a kid. He looked like a decently young teenager in the first film. That movie came out 5 years ago. And I know we had COVID and a lot of other stuff pushed this movie back. But his transformation into Captain Marvel, and I'm going to call him Captain Marvel. Calling him Shazam is just silly. And I'll get on that later. His transformation into his heroic form of Captain Marvel, the juxtaposition between those characters is just way off. In the movie, he's turning 18. So you have this 18-year-old turning into his prime self, which is, let's say, is 30. Let's say 30 is his athletic prime, because once you turn 30, you go downhill. So the change of him turning into this hero isn't quite as jarring. It's more a little weird. It's like an adult turning into another adult. And also their behaviors are just wildly different. Zachary Levi is still playing Captain Marvel as this kid in an adult's body when what he should be doing is playing him as a 18-year-old in a slightly older body. He should be a little more mature, have a little more wisdom. He's just like this big kid, and I just don't think they quite fleshed that out. Now that's great if that's what they wanted to do. They should have kind of just took that to Asher Angel, like, look, just be a little more childish, a little more like Freddy. And I think, like everybody else, their adult and kid forms were perfectly matched. And the girl that plays Mary, like, she now plays her hero form. She looked great. And I am truly sad that potentially none of these characters are going to come back in the DCU. And I like Zachary Levi. I like his portrayal. I think they could bring him back as Captain Marvel moving forward, but they will have to recast Billy Batson. And I think you cast extremely young for Billy Batson so you can use him for a very long time. And I mean, like, you cast a 5-year-old, maybe a 6-year-old, as like an 8-year-old, and then that way as he ages, 10 years down the line, you still have a 16-year-old kid that can play your hero. So those are just my thoughts on that. They changed the suits in this movie. They changed the suits, and I like the new suits. They look decent. They look more in line with like a sleek superhero outfit of today's movies. But I did like the just mostly red, white, and yellow suit that in the last one, like the big bulky muscles. I did kind of like that. For me, I don't know, it just looked a lot more like the comics. Not that this one's awful or anything, but that one and like the glowing lightning bolt, it struck more of a chord with me than the newer ones. But that's not like a big deal at all. I thought the parents were in this one a lot less, and I feel like they could have figured out a way to, have them be incorporated more into the story somehow. And I think that's the issue. Okay, another thing about this movie, they're in superhero form for most of the film. They should have been in kid form for most of the film, with their adult versions popping in for fights and other things. Like when they're hanging out in like I forget whatever his space is with all like the different realms and doors, the Rock of Eternity. When they're hanging out at the Rock of Eternity, they should be in kid form there, having their meetings, doing other stuff. And of course, yeah, you can transform. You need to check out these doors or whatever and label stuff. But having them be adults throughout most of the movie just took away from what the story is, that these children have powers that turn them into superhero adults. So I think they should have kind of dialed back on the adult forms. And back to the Rock of Eternity. The best character that they bring in there is the pen Steve. Steve is great. I do think they got a little too jokey with Steve, where he just writes down whatever you say. Like, he has no autonomy when he clearly does. Like, he'll tell them stuff. Like, well, he'll write stuff for them when they ask him a question. But he should also know not to write everything somebody says when they're trying to write a letter. And the fact that they didn't even check it afterwards, seeing how one's like 21, the other is 18, the other 17, about to be 18. There's just so much there. I think another one's 19. Like, there's just so much wrong with, them being too childish. And another crux of the story is that Billy Batson is afraid that once he turns 18, his foster parents are going to kick him out, even though I think the Hispanic brother is like slightly older than him and he's still there. Mary, she's like a few years older. She's also still there. So him feeling scared that they're going to kick him out carries zero weight when we clearly see that they love him. They consider him a son. And even when he turns 18, they're like, yeah, you can still stay here. It's how it is. We love you. We've always wanted a big family. So I thought that plot line was just silly. They should have nixed it completely. The only plot line should have been that these gods have returned to drain the powers from these mortals. The thing about also not connecting this to Wonder Woman is, are these gods older than Wonder Woman? Which they would have to be, because I think she was born like right when the gods were killed. She wasn't born before they were killed, because she never met Zeus. So I think, yeah, they should have explained that more. And because Rachel Zegler, her god, is like, she says she's like 6,000 years old. Let me fact check this for a second. Yeah, so Wonder Woman is like 5,000 years old. So Rachel Zegler's character, Anthea, is 1,000 years older than Wonder Woman, yet she looks a lot younger. And the age discrepancies between the sisters, Anthea, Nyx, and I can't remember Helen Mirren's god's name. So sorry, it's actually Anthea, Hespera, and Calypso. So those are the daughters of Atlas. So their age discrepancies don't really make sense. And also making the daughters of Atlas doesn't quite make sense. It would have been more believable if they were just gods who somehow survived Ares killing all the gods, and felt like if their powers weren't taken, they would have been able to defend themselves or something like that. Or if they were the Fates, because the Fates deal with age and time and death. So that makes more sense to me for their age discrepancy. You have a young one, a middle-aged one, and a super old one. So there's that. And there's also the fact that, I mean, since they're gods, they could have been born like thousands of years apart. But even so, why is one looking old and one looking like a teenager? So there's that aspect of it. And at the same time, Anthea falls in love with Freddy, and she's 6,000 years old, and he's 17, and they're together at the end of the movie. He's not 18 yet. So that's just super... it's just weird that she would... Ooh, look at that 17-year-old more. I mean, I guess that's... Like, nobody's, like, talking about it on social media, which they shouldn't. It's just a silly movie, but it's like they made fun of Wonder Woman for sleeping with another man in Steve Trevor's body, yet they have no problem with the 6,000-year-old god dating a 17-year-old boy. I just think that part was funny to me. So Djimon Hounsou, who plays the Wizard Shazam, he died in the first film. They retconned that in this one to say that, you know, he could no longer stay in this realm and ended up in the realm of the gods, even though he's not a god. So why he would get sent there made zero sense. And they've just been imprisoning him until the staff is broken and border realm between the humans and the gods is broken down. So that whole plot, I think they just kind of threw that in there. They had to explain how they were bringing him back. It doesn't quite make sense. Going back to Black Adam, his gods that give him his powers are Egyptian gods. Where are they in this movie? And I know, you know, they're kind of like ignoring Black Adam for some silly reason. Well, because The Rock wouldn't let it happen. But like, where are all the other pantheons? Is this godly realm home to every god of every pantheon? Or is it just Greek gods? And see, there's a lot of more little things like that they could have explained that could have made this movie better. And I don't really blame David F. Sandberg. He was hamstringed from the beginning, from the get-go. When he made that first Shazam, he kind of lucked out, because that movie came out right after they kind of snatched everything away from Zack Snyder and started to do their own thing. Luckily, they made $1 billion with Aquaman, which is the only film in the DCEU to break $1 billion, because, you know, they got reactionary and changed everything. But nothing else has been super successful after, you know, the Snyderverse. You got Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. That's like a $600 million movie, and then like an $868 million movie. I do agree, as much as I love Batman v Superman, it should have been an easy $2 billion movie. Easily. But, you know, he went for this more adult approach. It didn't work. They didn't let him release his initial cut. There's so many issues. And they ruined Justice League. And like I did Zack Snyder's Justice League earlier, if they had let him release that and like, look, buddy, we will give you 2 hours and 50 minutes. In there, you can release Justice League. I think it would have did a lot better, because his version of the film is just so much more. And, you know, now we'll never see Superman meet Shazam. We'll never see any other heroes meet Shazam. James Gunn's rebooting everything, or soft rebooting everything, and we'll see what he decides to keep. You got Blue Beetle coming out, Aquaman still coming out, The Flash, and it's kind of sad. This universe never really took off. It never got to be what it wanted to be. I do feel, like I said, this is a good movie. I feel that you should check it out in theaters if you can, and you should buy it when it comes out. Just, you know, give David F. Sandberg a little support. You know, he's going on online. He does seem a little heartbroken about it, how he thinks it's a good film. He says he's not touching superhero films for, like, ever again, or at least for a very long time, because of his ordeal with this one. And he's going back to horror, which is great. He does good horror, and I think he should. But he made 2 solid superhero films that I feel, if it was in a cohesive universe, each of these movies would have at least been like $600 to $700 million in profit. Those are just my thoughts. And the creature design in this film was also pretty good. You can tell like some of the CGI was, a little poor. They didn't quite have the budget to do something truly like visually stunning. But it was like a throwback to like the old 1968 Clash of the Titans with, like the Cyclopses and the Harpies and all that. If you actually pay attention to the film, David F. Sandberg, he gets carried off by one of the Harpies and gets killed. And I really like that aspect. I like the unicorns being the king of the beast. I like the fact that giving them Skittles like turns them onto their side. Like there's a lot of good stuff in this film. I think if it was part of a cohesive universe and it had like a better writer on the script, that this could have been fantastic. And I did really enjoy the damage in the city. Like the fight sequences really reminded me of Man of Steel and like how much damage was done to the buildings. Like I said, there could have been a lot more to this film. And it's just really sad. We will never, at least not in this universe, we never saw Black Adam and Shazam fight. We never saw them fight. And like that's what they're meant to do. Those two are meant to go at it, and depending on which comic series you read, eventually become like frenemies and work together, like Goku and Vegeta. That's what was supposed to happen, and we are never going to see that. And another thing about this film that just truly bothers me, and I don't know if they explain it in the comics, I'm not going to check, but Shazam's powers stand for the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. So it's supposed to be that he has all of these godly powers, and that's what, makes him so strong. But Solomon is not a god. He's a king from the Christian religion. Achilles is a mortal soldier. I think he was mostly invulnerable depending on, mythology, except for his ankle. His mother dipped him in the river Styx and it gave him pretty much invulnerability. But since she held him by his ankle on that one leg, that's what would kill him. And Hercules is a demigod. Atlas is a titan, and Mercury is a Roman god. So, and I know that gets you to spell the name, but they should have kind of explained, well, Solomon's from Christianity and Mercury's from Roman mythology. How did you get all of these different, like, I think they explain it in the story that the wizard stole these abilities from the gods. So I don't think he could have stolen this stuff from them. He would have had to have asked. Like, he didn't steal powers from Zeus. Zeus, that's just another, like, disconnect from Wonder Woman. Like, he didn't steal these powers. He most likely was gifted these abilities. And I think part of the rewriting should have been that, hey, he went to some gods and said, hey, I want to make a mighty mortal to fight for us. Can I get some ability? And Zeus gives him some electricity, and Atlas gives him some stamina, and he meets the king Solomon. He's like, my Lord God gave me this wisdom. Here's a sample of that. And Hercules like, here's some of my strength. Like, I think that is how it should have gone, instead of kind of just, we're assuming that all of these people are Greek gods, but they're not. And it just bothers me. Rant over. And before I forget, there is a post-credit scene, and it is a follow-up to the post-credit scene for the first movie. You got Dr. Zavanna. He is still in prison, and he's growing out like his comic accurate beard and mustache. And Mr. Mind, the little caterpillar thing, comes back and says, I've been formulating my plan and it's almost done. And he's like, but I gotta go, I gotta complete it. And he's like, well, it's been 2 years, like what's going on? He's like, look, I'm a caterpillar, I can only get somewhere so fast. And I thought that scene was funny, and that's another thing that we'll never see come to fruition. Like, what was Mr. Mind planning? What was going to happen? Were we going to see the monster society of evil? It's just so much left on the table that we'll never see. And hopefully one day James Gunn and Peter Safran, if their deal works out and their universe takes off, they can be like, look, Snyder, all you other guys, we will allow you to kind of wrap this universe up in some Elseworlds films down the line. Give them all that, look, your budget is 70 to 100 million. Make it work. Like, because I would like to see more of this. But yeah, I think those are all of my thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff I could talk about in this film, but I got a lot on my plate. Even getting this review out, it's a little late. So, it just is what it is. But that will do it for me. Remember, you can read the full review for Shazam! Fury of the Gods on the website, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, the website, anything and everything. Flipfrog Books. Make sure that you subscribe. My next Let's Talk spoilers will probably be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I just need a little break. I need to get a lot of things in order, clean house a little bit with some of my stuff. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.